team. Got a special treat for you today. We are joined by the one and only Matt Walsh. He has a new book out, Church of Cowards. He's going to tell us a bit about that. And also, if you haven't already, you can check out his podcast, The Matt Walsh Show. And he's a writer at The Daily Wire. Matt, great to have you back on the show.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for having me, Buck.
All right, let's start with the book, and then I'll get into a little bit of current events, if that's all right. So, Church of Cowards, a wake-up call to complacent Christians. What do you want complacent Christians to know?
Well, I think when you look at the situation of the church, I think most Christians, most believing Christians, realize that we have a problem, that the church is dying, essentially. Not to be too dramatic about it, but when you see the statistics of younger generation leaving the church, especially when they get to around college age, and faith is dwindling. When you look even more specifically at the number of Christians who will affirm even the most basic doctrinal points of Christianity, those numbers are going down. Why is that? That's the question. And I think the answer is that in our culture in the West, as opposed to out in the East, in the Middle East, and places in Africa where they have real violent persecution they face, we don't face that. Our problem is almost exactly the opposite, where we're far too comfortable and we're sort of just drifting along on the tide of the culture and going wherever it takes us. And in this case, it's taking us right into faithlessness and secularism and relativism. And so this book is trying to call attention to that and basically hoping to rally Christians to resist that tide, because I think we've been just drifting with it for far too long.
And why is that? I mean, people talk a lot about the culture and the influences that one has from just, TV, movies, what's cool, the VMAs, all this stuff. It tends to not be in line with a let's just say a traditional Christian morality. Is there a way to infuse the culture with more of that, or is that a pipe dream? What do you make of it?
Well, I think it has to start with the church. And when I say the church, I mean, Christianity generally, churches in general. It has to start there. And I think what's the problem is that many churches for a long time and Christian leaders have been very reluctant, have been scared to challenge their flocks, especially morally, to have a real moral message, to call them to sacrifice and repentance and these things. And so it has to begin with that. We can't be afraid to engage on a moral level, and we can't be afraid of engaging the culture, which has been the case for so long.
Now, you're a Catholic. I'm a Catholic. What do you think of this Pope?
I can't say I'm a big fan of the Pope. My biggest issue with Pope Francis is that the one thing we need as Catholics and as Christians generally is moral clarity and direction. And that's the exact opposite of what we've been getting from the Vatican for years now, where it's just confusion, it's haziness. And, it sounds like the Pope is suggesting that this or that change should be made. It sounds like he's even challenging some really fundamental points of doctrine. And that's what it sounds like. And then we're told, no, by the Vatican, no, it's not exactly what he meant, but what did he mean? I don't know. And it's just been the same game that's been played for years now. And all it does is it confuses people, and it makes devout Catholics feel betrayed, and it makes us feel like, well, what, it makes us feel like the Pope just doesn't care the situation that we're in, or doesn't realize what it's like for us in this culture.
Now, 41 senators, Democratic senators, just voted against giving medical care when babies are born alive during an abortion procedure. Democrats claim this doesn't happen. I know this happens. We know this happens. There are people that have testified about it happening to them. But then they go ahead and vote against this after saying it's not a thing. Then they say, well, even if it is a thing, we're not going to give protection to babies who are born alive during an abortion procedure. I want to ask, what do you think should be what is the appropriate response from, I don't mean to focus too much here on the Catholic Church, but it is an area where I think you and I have some similar views on this. Pelosi, Biden, people who, I think Biden claims to be Catholic as well. I know Pelosi will talk about her faith. What should be done when someone like Nancy Pelosi, for example, supports publicly as a leader and as a legislator abortion for all 9 months of a pregnancy, and then turns around and talks about how her Catholic faith informs her love for everybody?
Well, I think it's just a total mockery and a disgrace that these politicians are allowed to continue. Obviously, the Catholic Church can't stop them from saying whatever they want to say, but the Catholic Church can say, well, if this is the position you're going to take and you're going to try to lead people into scandal and in sin publicly, then you're not going to do it as a Catholic, and they should be excommunicated. This is a tool that the Catholic Church has under its belt, and maybe there was a time when it was a little bit too liberal in its use of it, but in recent years and decades, it just seems like there's nothing that a Catholic can do, apparently, at least in the West, to get themselves excommunicated. But this is supposed to be exactly the situation that gets you excommunicated when you're on a public stage and you're denying basic fundamental doctrines of the Catholic Church and trying to, importantly, lead other people into denying it as well. That's when the Catholic Church is supposed to say, no, you're not. You're clearly not in communion with us, and so hit the bricks basically. And that's what should be said. There's no argument I can see, for allowing this to continue the way that the Church has.
What do you make of Pope Pete's? Speaking of popes, by the way, we're speaking to Matt Walsh, who has a new book out that you all should check out. You probably know Matt from the Daily Wire. His book is Church of Cowards: A Wake-Up Call to Complacent Christians. But Pope Pete, he seems to, even when it's not necessary, fall back on this, let me lecture Christians who are Republicans or conservatives about the immorality of their side. What's the Matt Walsh take on all that?
Yeah, I think it's interesting that Republicans are the ones who are accused of being Bible thumpers all the time, but Pope Pete, or Pastor Pete, as I've called, you promoted him, I guess, to Pope, but he's the one who brings up the Bible constantly. Brings his faith into it all the time, which I wouldn't have a problem with if it wasn't, number one, for the hypocrisy of it, but number two, that he's distorting the biblical message to support some of the worst moral outrages that the world has ever seen. I mean, Buttigieg is in favor of abortion at every stage of development. He was given a chance recently at I think it was a town hall. He was given a chance to at least come out against partial birth abortion, which is, the killing of a baby literally as it's being born and emerging from the birth canal. And he wouldn't come out against that. He apparently has no problem with that, and yet he's trying to use his faith as a cudgel to beat other people with, and it's just absolutely hypocritical and wrong.
And Matt, I also want to get your take on what do you see happening right now? That we had the debate last night. What do you see happening right now in this Democratic field? Are you concerned that Bernie Sanders, if he becomes the nominee, can actually win?
I think he can win. My money wouldn't be on him. I think the smart money would certainly be against him winning because for all the obvious reasons. Number one, he's a communist, and it is hard to imagine that 30 years after we win the Cold War that we actually elect a communist president. So that's hard to imagine. And on top of that, also other things. I think the fact that he's going to be 79 years old at Inauguration Day, that's also a problem that people recognize, and so many other issues as well. So that's what would, I think, put the odds against him. But I also think that many conservatives and Trump supporters have been a little bit too cocky and confident, basically guaranteeing that, he's going to lose 45 states or whatever. He definitely has a chance to win because there are other things that are working in his favor. And you do see some interesting parallels between Bernie 2020 and Trump 2016. I mean, this is someone who, number one, has a very excited core of supporters who are not going to abandon him no matter what comes out against him, just like Trump has always had, and Trump had in 2016. But I think the most important thing about Bernie that maybe people don't understand is that his message is all about moral outrage. That's his entire message. It's not an economic message. It's a moral message. And he's always out there talking about this is wrong, income inequality and people can't get health care and kids with their student loan debt and yada, yada, yada. His whole message is this is wrong. It's evil. We have to stand against it. And I think his prescriptions for these moral problems are completely wrong. But the fact is that's how he's rallying people. And it's a message that does resonate. And it's the same kind of message that Trump has always had, actually. I think that Trump has had a message of, the elites and the swamp, and they're taking advantage of the working man. It's a similar kind of message of moral outrage about people being taken advantage of. And
it's going to be a few 100,000 votes that determine who the next president is. I think everyone needs to remember that, too. It's not going to be like 10 million votes on one side or the other. It's going to be a few 100,000 in about a half a dozen states.
Right, exactly. So anything can happen. When you throw, just like we saw with Trump, you throw somebody like Trump into the mix, It's really hard to predict what's going to happen. And I think it's the same thing with Bernie. It's just all of the normal rules that we think we know for how politics works. They went out the window with Trump. Maybe they go out the window with Bernie too.
The book is Church of Cowards: A Wake-Up Call to Complacent Christians, available on Amazon now. Matt Walsh is the author of he's at the Daily Wire. Before we let you go, Matt, one last quick one. The Avengers movies, amazing or garbage?
I have to say, I think absolutely garbage. But
yes!
I'm weird.
Producer Mark, eat that. He says it's garbage too. And Matt Walsh is a wise man, so we can address this one later in roll call. But Matt, you just made my day, my friend. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. No problem. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Got an interesting news story I wanted to bring to your attention, team. But first, I want to let producer Mark, because he was busy making sure that the audio quality was perfect on our call there with Matt Walsh of the Daily Wire. We've now got 3 people at least officially.
Congratulations.
The Avengers are not good.
It's something about I guess Republican pundits.
Yeah,
you don't have time for fun.
Yeah, grumpy Republican pundits.
That's what it is. That must be
we
what it
do not
is.
like the fun. We just want everybody reading, Solzhenitsyn late at night. So they understand the trials and tribulations of the world. So that's something we got going. We got that going for us, which
I'll be
nice.
over here in my little fortress having fun.
Yeah, you'll be in the penalty box watching the billion-dollar franchise, multi-billion-dollar franchise. Yeah. I think now that it is
probably billion.
I actually tried to go back and watch a little bit of. There was an old Disney. I've been having a lot of fun with Disney Plus because I got a family member subscription. So
of course.
It's as one does.
Yeah.
And they had the old X-Men cartoon from way back. Have you ever seen it? There was an X-Men cartoon from way back in the day, like 20 some odd years ago. And it was pretty good. It was pretty good, I got to say.
They have everything on there. Like anything you could imagine is on Disney Plus.
I mean, I got to tell you, I don't know if you have real opinions on this. I've seen some of the new Disney stuff just out of curiosity. And when I say new, I mean the last 10 years. It's just not, in my opinion, the same quality as some of the original Disney greats. Lady and the Tramp. You go into Sword in the Stone. All the Snow White, all those things. I think they're in a different quality than I tried to watch Moana. It's not good.
Oh, my wife loves that.
Really?
She really does. She sings the song.
I couldn't get and I also
I
don't know
Toy
why.
Story?
What's up?
The newest Toy Story? That was quality.
Yeah. I also took a date a while back to at the date's request to Frozen.
The musical?
And yes.
Did you enjoy it?
It was a nice date. I enjoyed the date. She is lovely. The musical, I don't even understand what the story is really supposed to be. So I haven't watched the cartoon, but I did go to the Broadway show, and it's not clear to me exactly. So she freezes her sister, and then she goes away because she's afraid that her power of freezing will be used too much. And then it turns out that her sister's going to marry some bad guy, and she prevents him from. I mean, it's a mess.
Kids love
Frozen. They love it.
Love it.
They absolutely. I do not understand.
My wife's little cousin, maybe 3 years old, only will dress in Frozen outfits.
Yeah. I mean, I actually think you could argue the best Disney movies, Beauty and the Beast, is a fantastic movie. Yeah. I know people say, "Oh, but that's a great movie." But it almost won Best Picture. Actually,
that was actually the best live action one.
Oh, really?
I didn't see that. It was really good. The one with Hermione from Harry Potter.
From Harry Potter. I mean, Lion King's amazing. Lion King, for what it is, I think is a fantastic cartoon. Aladdin, that's actually one of Robin Williams, rest in peace, one of his best things.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's certainly up there with Mrs. Doubtfire. So the Disney cartoons have been amazing, and these cultural icons. And I just feel like some of the more recent ones. I mean, I know kids love Frozen though. I don't know. I still
makes money for the company.
I still don't understand what the anyway. So. I go around that. I'm not going to talk anymore about The Mandalorian, but if you haven't seen it yet, right? No, okay.
But I will point out these cartoons, the newer ones, they're not for your 38-year-old man.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
But see, what I'm saying though is I can still appreciate Lady and the Tramp, even if you're an adult, is great
of course,
for what it
but
is.
You
You're
look
watching
at
a
it
cartoon.
through your childhood.
Maybe, yeah.
Like you remember it, it gives you that warm feeling that you're a kid. But,
or you know, the Robin Hood with the Robin Hood as a fox. I don't know if you know, like those are great cards. You know, those are great to this day. So I just think that, you know, that's right. I don't have any of the emotional connection. You know, I saw like The Lion King with my parents in the theater. I remember. So
maybe when you have kids, you'll get that emotional connection back.
Well, no, I'll just have to sit there and watch the Disney things they want to watch for like hours and hours and hours at a time. Or I'll put them in front of it and I'll get to like be on my computer trading stocks.
Yeah, you'll be the curmudgeonly old
guy,
of course,
who's like, oh,
whatever.
Let it go. You know, the whole just like that. That's how I'm going to do it. Oh, the story I was going to tell you guys, the news story, since we're not talking about Disney anymore, is that a court of let me make sure I get this one right. A court has, in fact, ruled in favor of the administration. This just came down today. The Second Circuit has allowed the Justice Department to withhold grants from New York City and 7 states over sanctuary funding, reversing a federal judge's ruling from 2018. This is big. This is big. This is going to make its way up to the Supreme Court now. I think. I mean, the Supreme Court has to decide to take it, but I could see this going all the way, because shouldn't the federal government, if it has a legal request or if it has a legal request of states that it makes, and it has discretionary funds that it gives them to help with that, and then that state or city does not provide that assistance, doesn't the federal government as an entity then have the ability to pull back those funds? Isn't that federalism actually working the way that it's supposed to? As long as it's tailored in that way. We give you law enforcement funds to help us, and we would like help on this thing, and it's legal for the federal government to ask. This is all about illegal immigration now. Shouldn't there be the ability for the federal government to pull back those funds? The fight over sanctuary cities, this is, the administration should focus in on this. There was not a single question in the debate last night that I can remember, at least. Not a single question about immigration. Not one. It's crazy. Not one question about immigration. It's nuts. When you think, I mean, this is a huge issue for security, for the economy, for the future of this country. Everyone's been saying for years and years now on both sides, the system is broken. We got to fix it. We got to do more. No, instead, last night it was like a bunch of bickering and a wokeness competition at different parts. It was really, as we've all agreed who have watched the debate that I've talked to so far, it was a really weak showing. But this is something where the administration, I mean, Trump rose to prominence in the Republican field. He got ahead of his competition on the issue of immigration. This is where he separated himself. And he was willing to say the stuff that people needed and wanted to hear about this. He was the one who was saying, we used to all agree, there used to be this consensus on building a wall. There were laws passed by Congress about building barriers at the southern border to prevent illegal entry. And now all of a sudden that's anathema. Now that's, beyond the pale. You're not allowed to have that talk even. You're never mind actually enact it. So I'm happy to see that, because this is also Bernie Sanders. He's going to lose the left on this immigration issue. If you push him, he's not. It's not really clear where he stands in immigration, because it conflicts with his workers, workers of the world unite. Well, I guess workers of America unite thing. So this will be interesting to see this play out.
Time for roll call.
We got dubstep roll call intro, and I feel like dubstep has faded out again. It's like every 10 years, people rediscover some form of, what they call EDM, electronic dance music, which I think technically is dubstep. Dubstep is EDM,
it's all the same
right?
thing.
It's like a subcategory of EDM. It's like communism is a subcategory of socialism. Sure. Dubstep is a subcategory of EDM.
Same exact thing.
Right? Same thing. That's how I think about things.
No.
But yeah, I don't see that guy Skrillex anymore with the weird haircut and the cigarette dangling out of his
I'm sure
mouth.
he's still around.
Yeah, I'm probably making like $1 million a night DJing for, people all over like Austria. Like, yeah, play more of the EDM music. Yeah.
I think the Chainsmokers have taken.
This
they're
is
like
the best
big
part
EDM.
of my life. Wait, the Chainsmokers, the band?
Yeah.
Oh.
They do remixes of songs, and they always collaborate. That's what they always do, collaborate with other artists.
I've had this experience now where I went back because Spotify, which is incredible, and actually, I'm on Spotify because people from Team Buck made fun of me for using Pandora still, saying that I'm a grumpy old man. I shouldn't use Pandora. Pandora's for like Gen X, not quite millennials, right? But in between boomers. And so if you're born in like the late 70s, you're a Pandora user. If you're born in the 80s, you're supposed to be on Team Spotify. Yeah. And I don't know, what do you
I'm on Apple Music because I get it for free through my cell phone carrier.
Yeah. Okay. So there, but I went back and looked at all the top songs. They're not, the stuff for the last 10 years, no one's going to be listening to in 10 years. So when our parents, as much as I feel like boomers love to shove their music down the world's throat, every car commercial has got to be like a Rolling Stones song or, whatever. The truth is that music is timeless in a way that a lot of the stuff from the last 10 or 15 years I don't think will be.
I think certain artists will be. Like Adele, you can throw out there,
Correct.
Lady Gaga, maybe Justin Timberlake.
It's
people like that.
But it's a small subset of the overall. Whereas, if you put on, there's a lot of times now where I'll put on a song that is even an artist that people don't even really remember all that well. I mean, I think this is true of 80s music, for example. If you like 80s music, there's so many different songs and bands you can put on that even if you don't know what it is, you're like, I like this.
There's a lot of one-hit wonders in the 80s.
Oh,
and
yeah,
90s.
for sure. Yeah, I mean, look, the 80s was kind of a funky time. But I just, Skrillex, dubstep, I remember that was huge for a little while, maybe 10 years ago. And now
that type of music, like the remixes of actual songs, is great for when you're working out.
Yeah, that's true, actually. You know what my favorite band all time for working out is, actually? And their politics are horrible. They're like actual communists. I'm sure they're all millionaires, just like Sanders. Rage Against the Machine. If you're working out, Rage Against the Machine gets it done.
That's a completely different category of music.
Oh yeah,
that's like headbanging.
Oh yeah, no, that's like heavy. I mean, I think it's considered heavy metal.
Heavy metal, yeah. I don't think I can work out to that.
No, but it's
really
some of them. I have a Beast Mode playlist on Spotify. I should share with you.
I'll have to get it.
It's got 200 songs, man.
Wow.
I keep it fired up in the hut. All right, now we get roll call. We get some of the folks that've got thoughts and things for us, and we appreciate that. Oh, but one quick programming note. I will have my friend Ben Weingarten in on the show on Friday because I have to travel to L.A. to be on the Bill Maher Show, which I will be doing this Friday night. It is 10 Eastern on HBO. I believe 10 Eastern. It might be 9 Eastern. I think it's 10 Eastern. And it'll be interesting. It's going to be a spicy time, a spicy meatball to be a spicy time to be on the Bill Maher Show. So I'm looking forward to that. No surprise here. I will be the only conservative on the show that night. And that audience is not going to be super psyched about what I have to say. But you, team, are the ones that I'm speaking to when I do that show, as well as triggering literally millions of libs. So that will be fun, too. But if you get a chance, do tune in. I like to know the team is watching and rooting for me. And say nice things to me on Twitter afterwards because, man, my Twitter mentions after I do that show, terrifying. The libs come after me like a plague of lib locusts, like a bunch of angry progressive piranhas. Look at this alliteration that I pull off.
Get my popcorn ready.
Yeah.
That's what I'll do Friday night.
Yeah. Producer Mark's like, look at him. Because when I go there, boo, the live audience is going to boo me.
I mean, maybe I can read out the best tweets on the air on Monday.
We could do it. Oh, after the Bill Maher Show, we could definitely do a mean tweet session for sure. Woo, we'd have to get out the bleep button, though. All right, Kyle is first up here in roll call. Hey, Buck, you have an awesome show. Thank you, Kyle. You have fantastic taste. I think all the political speculation that Bernie has the best shot of getting beaten by Trump is not correct. I believe Bernie has the best shot out of all the Democrats to win the presidency. The reason I say that is if Bernie gets screwed out of this nomination, Bernie bros won't vote for the Democratic nominee. They may actually vote for Trump to send a message. There's a decent amount of evidence to support that theory. On the other hand, the rest of the Democrat voters would vote for Bernie because it's someone opposing Trump. I don't like how the Republicans have been underestimating Bernie. That's what the libs did to Trump, and we all know how that went. You and a few others are the only ones I hear not saying to write him off and to take him seriously. We won't lose if we get out and vote, but if we are overconfident in a victory, we will have a socialist in office. You're the man, Buck. Shields high. Thank you, Kyle. Look, I take Bernie very seriously. I'm not writing him off at all. I think that if there's any lesson from 2016 we have to learn, it's the media doesn't know squat, and American politics is a very different game than we had thought before. And in this new media environment, meaning social media, digital media, the game has changed. The game has changed. And Bernie Sanders is an outsider at a time when it feels like outsiders are able to pull off things that completely fly in the face of the conventional wisdom. See Donald Trump, right? I mean, this is pretty self-evident. So, yeah, I take him very seriously. I don't know if Bernie voters, I mean, this is what you're really getting at. I don't know if Bernie voters would really refuse to support the Democrat nominee or not. It's possible. You could be right on that. I think that it really is going to depend on what happens here. If someone were able to really legitimately surge, and I don't even know how that would be possible at this point, but like, let's say Biden managed to run the table in the contest, and there wasn't some real theory about, malfeasance from the DNC, there's not super delegates or something like that. Do I think Bernie voters would probably go and vote for Biden because they hate Trump so much? Yeah, I do. But who knows? We're all just guessing because we're talking about assessing trends that involve millions and millions and millions of individual decisions. And it's very tough for anybody to get that right ahead of time. Everybody in the political prediction game needs to maintain a healthy dose of humility. Peter writes, Ronkonkoma does have a beach. It's around the lake. It's okay. Nothing special. Most people go to Fire Island or Robert Moses. It's one of the few things I miss about Long Island. Here in Kingston, there isn't much beach-wise. Long Island is an overpopulated nightmare waiting to happen. Anyone there after Superstorm Sandy knows it's a ticking time bomb. Ultimately, I want out of New York, probably Pennsylvania by mid-2021. Producer Mark, what say you about this Long Island assessment?
Oh, Long Island's awful.
Really?
Highest taxes in the entire country, and that's on Suffolk.
Wow.
Between property taxes and income tax, all that. Highest.
Know that.
It's overcrowded. The Long Island Railroad is an abomination. It's an awful place. What do you think I'm getting at?
Yeah.
I could never raise a family there.
Wow. Well,
Ever.
I do know that getting a police. So I know this because of when I was in the NYPD, and the cops would often talk about how, getting a job as a law enforcement, as a cop in Nassau County, I think the average starting salary is like $120,000, and so becoming a police officer there, your chances per application is 0.01 or something.
Yes, and
it's impossible because they're so highly paid, and the tax base has to be super high, obviously, to do that.
No matter what, they make you redo the academy. I know somebody who was NYPD and was looking to maybe go to Nassau or Suffolk. He couldn't just join the force in any other force in the country. You have to re-go to the academy, even though NYPD is probably the best academy.
And you've heard that too, that they're very high. That's
very high salaries.
I think they have the highest starting law enforcement.
You can't not have
in the
a high
country.
salary with those taxes.
With those taxes and the property taxes. Yeah.
Cost of living is ridiculous on Long Island.
Actually, I was supposed to go to a big party for charity. I'll never forget this. That a very good friend of mine was throwing out in Suffolk County, and the venue, which was a party venue that you could rent, sort of like for weddings or whatever.
Yeah.
The venue got shut down the day before because the venue didn't think that they, for whatever reason, they didn't think that they had to pay the local Suffolk. There's a liquor fee that you pay for the town that they didn't think. They're no, it's a private thing. Whatever. No. And those Suffolk cops showed up and they were like, no charity party. We don't care. You pay the tax, my man.
There's a fee or a tax for everything.
Yeah, they didn't pay the public liquor. It wasn't a liquor license because they weren't selling it. But if you're going to have a large enough gathering, you have to have some almost like a keg fee or something like that.
Sure.
And you have to go to the local PD and you have to get it. They didn't get it. Party canceled because of this. And I was like, wow, these Suffolk cops, these guys don't mess around.
Nickel and dime you for the amount. Last year, I needed the inspection. You have to get an inspection on your car every year. I guess it expired the day before. Immediately got a ticket.
I've been out to East Hampton and Southampton a few times in the last, I'd say, decade or so. I'll never forget. I was out and I was driving a rental car in Southampton, and I did a 3-point turn on a street that I'm telling you there were no cars, no people, no nothing, and a cop who was on foot waved me over.
Yeah.
And I sort of drove up. I'm like, yeah, there's nothing. It was the middle of the day. There's nobody there. It was a lady cop, and she's just look, I'm gonna let this go, but you just broke a double line by doing that. And I think she said it was a $275 fine.
Not surprised.
And I looked at her. I was like, you're are you in what universe could this be dead? She's like, no, I'll let it go this time. And I was like, you guys would honestly, but it's because I had, it's a rental plate.
Yep.
I'm a weekender. I'm just there visiting friends or something. They don't care. They will rinse you in these places.
You could be a resident. They would do that to you.
Oh yeah, no, of course.
A red
Well,
light
it depends.
ticket?
If you're a year rounder, it's different.
Yeah.
I know this because I actually dated a girl who lived on Martha's Vineyard, and I was with her in the car when a cop pulled her over for actually speeding. And he's like, how's your dad? Like you're right. Like if you're a townie in these towns, you go right
That's
away.
fair.
If you're a summer person, they turn you upside down and they empty out your pockets.
Do you know how much a red light ticket is in Nassau County?
How much?
$150.
See, that's what I mean.
It's just ridiculous.
It's crazy. Yeah. They just take you to the cleaners, man. That's what they do. Anyway, Strong Island. Those of you who've never been out there, there are beautiful beaches. That's why people pay.
It's a beautiful place, but you have to pay to be there.
It's a little bit. It starts to sound a little bit like California. Too much traffic, too expensive. By the coast. That's what's going on in California too. Greg, Buck, I know I always write in. Well, Greg, we love it. But I become a bigger and bigger fan every single day I listen to you. Never has common sense been so widely spoken. On another note, I think the Republican Party should rename itself the Freedom Party. I think that would resonate a lot better with voters. Just an idea. Shields high. Well, Greg, thank you for the kind words about the show. And that's really an endorsement of what we do here, that you feel like every day the show gets better and better. So thank you so much for that. And we appreciate it. Rick writes, "Hi, Buck and producer Mark. Love the show. Volunteering for military service offers solutions to many of what Bernie views as problems in our country today. Free clothes, free food, free place to live, regular promotions and pay increase simply for doing your job, weekends off, opportunities to travel, on-the-job experience from day one. 20 years of service will generate a military pension for a lifetime. You can't do this anywhere else. Just saying. Shields high, brothers." Well, Rick, I'm assuming you are a veteran. It sounds like you are based on your description here. Obviously that's, serving your country is certainly a honorable and fantastic option for a lot of people that want to do it. I think we all know Bernie Sanders was not he was not interested in signing up at any point. Jeffrey, Buck, there are 23 movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. For reals. I'm a fan that's been with you since the Real News days. Shields high. Well, thank you so much, Jeffrey. 23 movies in the Marvel Cinematic.
Yeah, I was trying not to tell you how many there actually were.
That's a ton.
Yeah.
I didn't realize Ant-Man is one of them, by the way.
Yeah.
I saw this in the guy from Clueless is now a superhero?
Yeah. Ant-Man's one of the funniest.
Is it good?
It's great, yeah.
Oh.
Both Ant-Man and then Ant-Man and the Wasp.
I didn't even know this is a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to learn more about this.
Mm-hmm.
I also, though, I was not a Black Panther fan at all as a movie.
Because you probably looked at it with politics glasses on.
No, nope. That's not fair. Like, I will say the Motorcycle Diaries, which is about the rise of Che Guevara, Ernesto Guevara. People call him Che, which means dude. Motorcycle Diaries is a really compelling movie. It's also turns Che Guevara, who's a monster, into like a Jesus figure, basically. Like he's like just wants to heal the sick and help the poor and everything else. Good movie, horrible politics. I just didn't think. I mean, Black Panther, the society is more advanced than any other society in the world. They have like special technology doesn't exist anywhere else. But they choose the leader by having like a blood sport death match. Just doesn't seem to add up. To
it's supposed to be like old tribal ways.
But I mean, if you got the most advanced technology in the world, like when you know what I mean? I don't know. I just thought it seemed a little bit strange to me. And also the thing with the rhinos at the end, where like there's the CGI rhinos running over people. I wasn't into it. I'm just saying. I know everyone's supposed to love the movie Black Panther. To me, there were some cool parts. I thought some of it was pretty good, but I don't know. I'm. What can I say, folks?
I just don't understand you.
I know. It doesn't make sense to a lot of people. Mark writes in. This is just a name thing. I have to agree with Mark, of course, on the Avengers. Endgame is only one of a series is the only one of the series I had any emotional response to. Love the show as always. All right, another like vote for producer Mark's analysis on this one, but comes from this isn't you, right?
No,
You're not
I
writing
wrote
in
to
yourself.
myself. Yeah.
You gotta keep an eye on this guy. Like I said, I'm gonna go back and check it out. Scott writes, "Hey Buck, Bernie saying Castro isn't all that bad because he instituted a literacy program is like praising Hitler for always paying the gas bill. Gloves off, shields high." Scott, you said it, man. I don't know why Bernie feels the need to do that, but he's, it's not helping himself. It's not the right thing to do. Richard, My wife is a teacher, so she would drag me along to judge high school debate tournaments. That is what love is. Those high schoolers behave better than these candidates and could moderate a debate better than CBS did. Did you catch where Bloomberg slipped up and said he bought the 40 reps who took the House? That is Bloomberg. He thinks he can just buy the election. And this whole wealth tax thing, it's only going to be 2% at first. The income tax was only 1% at first. And then Wilson sent it sky high, shields high. Good stuff from Richard. Team, I'm going to have a fantastic show tomorrow. If you get a chance, tune in tonight, please, on the iHeart app for the WOR show, 710 WR. If you're in the New York area, the Buck Sexton Show has a local branch on WOR at 6 Eastern. And there we have it. Thank you so much for joining us here on the show. Please subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts. Shields high.